This ceasefire will last, no doubt, not because of the goodwill of anybody, but because it is by the interest of both parties not to renew the war. Both parties don't want it. Both parties did want to finish this war. It's not like between Israel and Gaza, in which Israel does not want to end it. And if it will end it, it will be because Israel will be forced to end it. Here, nobody forced Israel in Iran. I mean, Donald Trump forced it, but both were eager to put an end to this war, and therefore it will last, no doubt.
Do you fear that this 12-day war may have convinced the Ayatollah regime that its only security lies in nuclear weapons and that it will now accelerate its efforts to make a bomb?
No doubt. No doubt, because they will get to the obvious conclusion that would they have now nuclear bomb, this Israeli attack would never happen. As simple as this. They can look at Pakistan, at North Korea, and say, look how the regime has a guarantee. We don't have this guarantee. We have to get it. The fact that the Jews are victims of the Holocaust does not enable them to do whatever they want to the others. By all means not. On the contrary, the Jewish state should have been a lighthouse to prevent another Holocaust and not to spread dangers of another Holocaust. If in the last days, on a daily basis, dozens and dozens, in many days over 100 Palestinians are killed on a daily basis now, without Israel even trying to claim that they have anything to do with terror, with Hamas, just innocent civilians who are standing in the line for food and aid, and they are being slaughtered on a daily basis, and nobody cares. Nobody. What else is it if not genocide? I mean, this systematic killing of these people who wait for food. I see those scenes, I see the videos. How else can you call it? It has nothing to do with self-defense, nothing to do with security, nothing to do with any kind of human values. It is just killing for the sake of killing. And killing for the sake of killing makes it a genocidal war, no other way.
Hello and welcome to a special interview for The Wire. Assuming yesterday's ceasefire holds and the violations stop, how should we look back on the 12-day Iran-Israel war that's hopefully ended? Is Iran really an existential threat to Israel, or is that an exaggerated view? Were calls for the elimination of Ayatollah Khamenei justified or morally repugnant? And what about the crisis in Gaza? With his political standing enhanced, will Benjamin Netanyahu change his attitude, or will he press ahead with what many consider genocide? Those are the issues I shall raise today with the internationally renowned award-winning columnist of Haaretz Newspaper, Gideon Levy. Mr. Levy, assuming that the ceasefire that came into force yesterday holds, how do you look back on the 12-day war that's ended? What will you say when you write about it?
I'm in the middle of thinking about it. I have to write today my column. And we need some perspective. That's the truth. You need some perspective to evaluate the achievements, the losses. But I can say generally, the most positive thing I can say is that at least it didn't last too long. This could have become a war of attrition of months and months, like it happened in Gaza, and then it would have been a catastrophe for both sides. At least we had Donald Trump to stop it after 12 days, and this by itself is a blessing, not less than a blessing, because I was really scared that it's going to last so long. I must remind you and your viewers that the Iran-Iraq war lasted 8 years, yeah? So, and Iran has more capabilities to absorb it over time. Israel would not take it for long because life here was totally paralyzed. Now, no doubt that everything that will be achieved now could have been achieved without the war. The agreement that is going to be will be similar to the agreements that were already signed and the American left under the pressure of Israel, and now they will agree almost to the same lines. And again, I ask myself, are those wars necessary and what for? Nobody gained here much. Iran has still capabilities as far as we know. Israel paid the price, a heavy price. Yes, it was a war deluxe because the capability of the Israeli pilots, nobody can deny it, their capability. But by the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, where are you aiming for a war every 2-3 years? I mean, this is not sustainable.
Let me ask you a specific question. Were the Israeli and US attacks on Iran legal? If the Russian invasion of Ukraine breached the rules based international order, surely Israel and America's attacks on Iran also breached the same rules based international order.
I guess so. I'm not a legal expert. I guess so. But in my view, that's the least of the problems, because there is also the problem if it was necessary, and there is the problem if we couldn't avoid this war. And those questions are much stronger. Yeah, I guess almost every war is illegal. Karan, by the end of the day, yes.
I will definitely come to the questions you ask about whether this war was necessary. But let me first ask you a question about the ceasefire. It's roughly 24 hours old, but in the first couple of hours, there were violations by both sides. Trump insists it's complete and total, but do you believe it's complete and total? Or do you think it's only a matter of time before it starts fraying and then collapsing?
No. This ceasefire will last, no doubt. Not because of the goodwill of anybody, but because it is by the interest of both parties not to renew the war. Both parties don't want it. Both parties did want to finish this war. It's not like between Israel and Gaza, in which Israel does not want to end it. And if it will end it, it will be because Israel will be forced to end it. Here, nobody forced Israel in Iran. I mean, Donald Trump forced it, but both were eager to put an end to this war, and therefore it will last, no doubt.
Now, Prime Minister Netanyahu, when he announced the ceasefire, said that he was accepting it because Israel had secured both its war goals. Firstly, it had removed the Iranian nuclear threat, and secondly, he claimed it had removed the Iranian ballistic missile threat. Do you believe that those threats have been removed? Because today, the United States Defense Intelligence Agency has leaked a report published first by CNN, which says that the Iranian nuclear program has only been set back by a few months. It hasn't been obliterated as Trump claimed.
So, first of all, I don't know. I mean, none of us know exactly what happened there under the earth. Secondly, I never expected it to be possible to totally exterminate the capabilities. What do you mean? Every capability can be renewed. And it's only the question for how long did we postpone it. Israel claims few years, the American agencies claim few months. I guess the truth is somewhere in between, and all those don't meet the heavy price of this war. By all means not.
Then let me ask you this. Do you fear that this 12-day war may have convinced the Ayatollah regime that its only security lies in nuclear weapons and that it will now accelerate its efforts to make a bomb?
No doubt. No doubt, because they will get to the obvious conclusion that would they have now nuclear bomb, this Israeli attack would never happen. As simple as this. They can look at Pakistan, at North Korea, and say, look how the regime has a guarantee. We don't have this guarantee. We have to get it.
So in a sense, the danger has heightened. Previously, they didn't have a bomb. They were publicly at least committed to not making one. That was their rhetoric. Now, as a result of this experience, they will be determined to make one, and the danger for Israel will grow.
Unlikely, I mean, most probably yes, unless the unlikely will happen, namely that their mindset will be changed, saying themselves, let's forget about it, lift all the sanctions, let's take care for other goals in our society, in our economy, and let's forget it for the time. I can hardly believe this will happen, not with this regime. This should be the best conclusion, by the way. You spend so much money, so much energy in preparation, in preparing this horrible weapon, and what did you get? What did you get until now? Nothing. Instead of investing it in totally different things. By the way, I say the same about Israel, obviously. But by the end of the day, it's quite unlikely that they will change their mindset. And I think you are right. They will now intense their efforts to get nuclear weapons. And I think Israel should come to the conclusion that nothing can be done about it. Finally, if you ask me, Iran will be a nuclear state. And for me, it's not the end of the world.
In fact, there's a deeper problem, isn't there, Mr. Levy? Iran's nuclear knowledge cannot be bombed out of existence. The country may have suffered a serious setback, but it will still be able to make a bomb in years to come because the knowledge is homegrown and it will always be there. And the problem is each time Iran attempts to make a bomb, America will have to step in and repeatedly bomb it. We're locked into a sort of cycle. Each time Iran tries, America has to step in and bomb it again.
Right? Unless someone will change its mindset. Either the world will have to accept the fact that Iran is another nuclear state among many other nuclear powers, including not very legitimate regimes like North Korea and in many ways Pakistan, or the Iranian will change the mindset and say, let's give it up for now. Let's put our energy, focus our energy on other goals in order to bring more prosperity to our people. One of the two sides will have to change his mindset.
Let me ask you a deeper, wider question, in a sense, a question that underlies our discussion. In your eyes, does Iran pose an existential threat to Israel? Or is that an exaggerated interpretation of the way the Ayatollah regime regards and views Israel?
I have an ongoing argument with my friends. They claim that if leaders of state, heads of state, keep on threatening for decades in extermination of Israel, and they keep on threatening and threatening, one should take it seriously. And then a nuclear bomb in their hands is really a danger, existential danger. I would not take their rhetoric so seriously. I mean, there are so many Israelis who call to transfer all the people of Gaza, to exterminate all the people of Gaza, to kill all the Arabs, to kill all the Palestinians. You know, I hate to hear it, but it's not an operational program. That's not a plan. That's a dream. And people dream all kinds of crazy dreams. I think that by the end of the day, for the Iranians to have a nuclear bomb, while knowing that they are not the only ones in the Middle East with nuclear weapons, can in many ways stabilize the area by the fact that none of them will dare to ever use it or to attack one of the other, because there will be this deterrence of both sides, knowing that it will be suicidal to use it. I still think that even if Iran will have nuclear weapons, it will be suicidal for the regime to use it because, there is someone who will retaliate in such a way that Iran will be demolished.
But you're suggesting, or you seem to be suggesting, that if Iran does have a nuclear weapon, that could bring some sort of deterrence and stability.
Exactly. I prefer that nobody will have nuclear weapons. And for sure, I prefer that Iran will not have nuclear weapons, as I prefer that no country will have. But I don't see it as the end of the world if Iran will have it, because I believe that even Iran has quite a rational leadership. You see, until now, they didn't do crazy things. They are not less rational than the United States or Israel in their behavior. They are trying to get goals which, in my view, are not always legitimate. I think their tyranny within Iran, their attitude toward women, their fundamentalism, those are things which, in my view, are not legitimate. But by the end of the day, they are not a suicidal country or a crazy country. They are going along their logic and their rationale. And until now, I didn't see any signs that they will go for a suicidal act like using atomic bombs. By all means, not.
Let me put to you, Mr. Levy, a point made to me by the Oxford historian Avi Shlaim. And as you know, Avi Shlaim is one of Israel's leading, most highly regarded historians. He says, Iran has never attacked a neighbor. Israel has done so repeatedly. He says, Iran doesn't have nuclear weapons. Israel does. He says, Iran is a signatory of the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. Israel isn't. Finally, he says Iran allows IAEA inspections, Israel doesn't. What does that comparison tell us about the two countries?
First of all, I agree to every word of my friend Avi Shlaim. Every word is true. I mean, nobody can contradict what he said. What does it say? It says that in our world, in many cases, in many fields, Israel has rights that no other country has. We will not get now to the reasons. There are historical reasons and others, but the world treats Israel in different tools than it treats any other country in the world. And it also agrees to certain things about Israel, which it doesn't agree to no other country in the world. And nuclear capability is obviously the best example, because the world never tried to disarm Israel from its capabilities. And the world is doing so many efforts to disarm Iran from its potential capabilities. This makes no sense, obviously. But there is no sense in the way that the world is treating Israel. Israel is, for many reasons, a special case, and not always I can live in peace with it. I don't want to live in a place which is a special case. I want Israel to be as any other state in the world.
In the article you wrote for your paper Haaretz last Sunday, that's just 4 days ago, you hinted at why the world treats Israel as a unique special case. It's the horrible, unforgivable experience of the Holocaust that has made almost anything Israel does understandable or excusable. You hinted at that, didn't you?
Yes, absolutely. I don't even hint. I say it very clearly. But it's only one of the reasons. There are some others. Even the theological belief that Israel is the chosen people plays some role for some communities in the world. But above all, obviously, the guilt feelings about the Holocaust, but they are totally irrelevant, with all the respect. And I have a lot of respect to any argument about the Holocaust, but that's totally irrelevant. The fact that the Jews are victims of the Holocaust does not enable them to do whatever they want to the others. By all means not. On the contrary, the Jewish state should have been a lighthouse to prevent another Holocaust and not to spread dangers of another Holocaust.
In that article that you wrote for Haaretz on Sunday, you also made another point. I want to come to that. You wrote about calls made by Trump as well as by Israel's defense minister Israel Katz to eliminate Ayatollah Khamenei. You said calls for the assassination of heads of state are not legitimate. And then you added, who is to say that Ayatollah Ali Khamenei may be assassinated, but Benjamin Netanyahu may not? Am I right in believing that you find what Trump said and what Katz said morally repugnant?
Morally and legally, even. I think Israel insists that it aims its attacks only on military goals. The supreme leader of Iran is a civilian, like any leader of any civilian society. And this whole attitude of murdering, let's call it murdering heads of states for certain goals will be. So I excluded Hitler because immediately they will immediately come and say, would it be legitimate to assassinate Hitler? Yes, it would have been legitimate to assassinate Hitler in order to save the world from this horrible, horrible phenomena. But Khamenei is not Hitler, far of it. And nobody in our world today is a Hitler. And therefore, the right to murder heads of state is at least questionable. In my view, it's illegal, immoral, and in many times also not very wise. Imagine yourself, Israel would have committed it, and he would be murdered. I'm not sure we would have faced now a ceasefire, because the Iranian couldn't go to a ceasefire after murdering their leader. So it wasn't clever either. But there was a whole discourse in Israel about hunting the Iranian scientists. What's the difference between a nuclear scientist in Israel and a nuclear scientist in Iran? They both developed the most horrible weapon ever. There's no moral difference between an Iranian scientist and an Israeli nuclear scientist. What is this talking about hunting? You hunt animals. They are not animals. And by the way, I'm also against hunting animals, but I put it aside. What do you mean you hunt them? Because they are Iranians, they are scientists, very dangerous ones, exactly like the Israeli scientists. And I would like to see what would have happened if Iran or any other country would start to assassinate the Israeli nuclear scientists.
You made that point very tellingly, because beyond the moral repugnancy, beyond the legal repugnancy, there's also a very dangerous, terrible precedent that could be set if Israel were to go around assassinating leaders of countries. You write, our Netanyahu is responsible for the killing of tens of thousands in Gaza. Is it permissible to call for his assassination in order to save the remnants of the nation there? And no doubt there are many in Gaza who would cheerfully and willingly want to assassinate Netanyahu. And the point you're making is that the spurious logic that applies to the justification for killing the Ayatollah also applies to the justification for someone in Gaza trying to kill Netanyahu. It applies both ways.
Word by word. I mean, I can't agree more to what I wrote.
Hi, I'm Karan Thapar. Over the last few years, I hope you've been watching my program, The Interview on the Wire. During that period, I've interviewed doctors, politicians, businessmen, scientists, authors, and even the occasional Nobel laureate. For me, it's been exciting. I hope it's been enjoyable for you. But these, as you know, are tough times, and if this program is going to remain bold, independent, and sometimes even defiant, then I think we need your support. At the end of the day, it's a truism, but editorial independence is best defended by the viewers. So if you would like this program to remain the way it is, forthright, outspoken, and interesting, then would you consider supporting us? All you have to do is to click on the description at the bottom. But more than anything else, I hope you will continue to watch the interview. Your viewership means an awful lot to me.
Let's, at that point, focus a little on Benjamin Netanyahu. After Hamas attacked Israel in October 2023, his stock plummeted, and we've spoken about the situation that he faced many times in earlier interviews. But today, after claiming victory in the 12-day war with Iran, how do you view his political standing in the country?
He turned from a leader to the status of a god, at least among his supporters. They see him now as a messiah. And he himself starts behave in a way as a messiah. He went twice to the Wailing Wall. He uses all kinds of religious expressions now. No doubt that he is more popular now than he had ever been. This does not mean that the opposition to him is as strong, as solid as it was before. Polls show that he still cannot win the elections if they would have taken place today, but it has strengthened his status quite in a remarkable way, because in Israel, this whole operation is perceived as a hell of a success. Everyone is so enthusiastic about the capabilities of the Mossad and of the pilots, and they all attribute it to him. And I think that, at least for the short run, he increased his popularity within 2 weeks like never before.
The paradox, Mr. Levy, is that Netanyahu may be riding high in public opinion, but the problem of Gaza and the wider problem of the Palestinian people not only remains unresolved, but arguably with each day is getting more pressing. Over 55 or 56,000 have been killed, over 131,000 have been injured, and the Strip has been devastated. But now, with his enhanced political standing, what do you believe will be Netanyahu's attitude to the crisis in Gaza? Might he, from this position of domestic strength, change his policies, or do you think he'll continue with what many consider a form of genocide?
I wish I could believe he is capable of changing. He could change. I mean, he could do now whatever he wants. I think the key question is not if Netanyahu will change, rather than if Donald Trump will change, because Donald Trump saw now that if he wants Israel to do certain things or not to do certain things, Israel has no other choice but to obey. And would Donald Trump now use the same leverage he used for stopping the war in Iran, also using it for stopping the war in Gaza? I have my doubts, but I have my hopes that at least Donald Trump will put an end to it. I don't see Netanyahu changing his mindset because of the simple reason that he believes that this war is a just war and he has to continue it. It is a horrible ideology because he doesn't believe in settlements with the Palestinians, he doesn't believe in compromises, he doesn't believe in the rule of Hamas, he doesn't believe even in the existence of Gaza. He wants to see Gaza evacuated. That's a real dream. With such an ideology, you can't really compromise unless he will be forced to do so by Donald Trump. And therefore, I think our hopes should be focused on Donald Trump and not on Benjamin Netanyahu. He will not, he would continue with the war in Gaza as much as he can, also because of personal reasons, not only ideological reasons, but the motivation are not important. The outcome is that he would continue it. Last night, there were killed 7 Israeli soldiers. How long can he go on in Israeli public opinion with the killing of soldiers on a daily basis? That's also a question. But he's devoted to continue. I have no doubts about it.
Let me ask you, how do you personally view the situation in Gaza? Omar Bartov and Avi Schleim are 2 prominent Israeli historians who have publicly, repeatedly, and forcefully said that what's happening in Gaza is genocide. And it's not easy for people who've served in the Israeli Defense Forces, teenagers or in their 20s, who have an emotional commitment to Israel, to actually say that of their country, but they've said it. What do you believe is the truth? To what extent do you agree it is genocide? To what extent would you disagree?
I will answer you with the title of one of my pieces, namely, if it's not a genocide, what is it? I am waiting for the International Court of Justice to finally get to a ending, get to a resolution about this very question, because it has also legal aspects. Is it a genocide or not? But what else can you call it? If in the last days, on a daily basis, dozens and dozens, in many days, over 100 Palestinians are killed on a daily basis now, without Israel even trying to claim that they have anything to do with terror, with Hamas, just innocent civilians who are standing in the line for food and aid, and they are being slaughtered on a daily basis, and nobody cares. Nobody. What else is it if not genocide? I mean, this systematic killing of these people who wait for food. I see those scenes, I see the videos. How else can you call it? It has nothing to do with self-defense, nothing to do with security, nothing to do with any kind of human values. It is just killing for the sake of killing. And killing for the sake of killing makes it a genocidal war, no other way. The formal, approval must come from The Hague, and I'm really waiting for The Hague finally to make up their minds. How long can it take for them to get a decision? They will get a decision where, God forbid, nobody in Gaza will be still alive.
For the 12 days that the Iran-Israel war lasted, Gaza became a sideshow. It literally disappeared from the headlines, and it was tucked, if anything, into the back pages of newspapers. But now that that Iran-Israel war has ended, do you believe world attention will once again focus on Gaza? Or do you fear that once out of the news, Gaza will remain forgotten and pushed into the past?
So first of all, I must remind you that Gaza started to be forgotten before the war in Iran. You know, the world has a limited attention and patience for a certain place because that's human beings. Okay, we know there is a horrible catastrophe there, maybe a genocide. We did our share, and now we are already preoccupied with the next thing, Ukraine. There is every week another catastrophe somewhere, and Gaza was already forgotten before the war. On the other hand, I hope that at least for the coming weeks, the pressure on Netanyahu to put an end to it will increase, especially because Donald Trump saw how easy it is for the United States to put pressure on Netanyahu and get results. So why not to use it now for Gaza? I don't think that Donald Trump has a special interest in continuing this war in Gaza. Not that he cares about the people of Gaza, he doesn't. But in a global look, this war is a headache for him, and he wants also this image of the peacemaker. So put the same pressure you put on Netanyahu over Iran, put the same pressure on him over Gaza, and put a total end to this war, because it doesn't lead anywhere except of a genocide.
And if he doesn't do that, if he
It
doesn't
will last forever. It will last forever if he doesn't do it.
You mean that the Gaza crisis will last forever?
Absolutely, until the last Palestinian will live or die. Israel will not stop if there will be no international pressure on Israel to stop it. If Israel will not be punished or pay any kind of prices for continuing it, why would Israel stop? Israel will continue. It is good for Netanyahu personally. It is good for the right-wingers. They want it. There is even many times I'm shocked to see how bloodthirsty they are in our right-wing organizations and parties. Really sadism, really sadism. I can't define it any other way but sadism. They want to see the people of Gaza dead, and for them, there are no innocent people in Gaza, including not babies. So with this atmosphere, it can last for many years.
We end with a paradox. We were talking about whether Iran is an existential threat to Israel. But what is clearly now the case is that Israel and Netanyahu are an existential threat to Gaza.
And in many ways to the whole region. You know, it's not only Gaza. For Gaza, no doubt, Gaza is in an existential threat. Even if the people will survive what we did to those people in the last 20 months, they will not recover soon. Gaza will not be rehabilitated soon. Gaza is a cemetery now, a huge cemetery, either for dead bodies or for walking dead people. I talk here and there with some friends there. Those are people who they are not human beings anymore. They lost. I see my friend lying on the ground in a tent for 20 months. He's 63-year-old after a stroke with diabetic. He doesn't have his medicines. He's dead, even though he is alive. This is the situation of Gaza now, and nobody is there to help Gaza or to save Gaza. And therefore, it's not that Gaza is in an existential threat. Gaza is dying in front of our eyes.
I wish, Mr. Levy, I could find a way of making your interview available to Donald Trump. Your words are so powerful that they might well awaken his conscience if he gets to hear them. I thank you for this interview. I'm deeply grateful. Take care. Stay safe.
Thank you. As usual, it's great pleasure to answer your very, very bright questions and knowledgeable. All the best.
Thank
All
you.
the
Thank
best.
you very much indeed.
Hi, I'm Karan Thapar. Over the last few years, I hope you've been watching my program, The Interview on the Wire. During that period, I've interviewed doctors, politicians, businessmen, scientists, authors, and even the occasional Nobel laureate. For me, it's been exciting. I hope it's been enjoyable for you. But these, as you know, are tough times, and if this program is going to remain bold, independent, and sometimes even defiant, then I think we need your support. At the end of the day, it's a truism, but editorial independence is best defended by the viewers. So if you would like this program to remain the way it is, forthright, outspoken, and interesting, then would you consider supporting us? All you have to do is to click on the description at the bottom. But more than anything else, I hope you will continue to watch the interview. Your viewership means an awful lot to me.